Okay, and this is Julie, and Julie's here. Hi, Julie.
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Hi, nice to see you. So you're doing one life drawing session a day, and these are your latest, looking for recurring patterns. Okay, great. So, well, I since you asked, I was gonna ask, well, what do you notice if you think
Yeah,
there's any recurring patterns?
for my shorter poses, I think that my figures tend to always feel a bit disconnected. It's either a bit
Mm,
disconnected or too like noodles. And so, yeah, I struggle mostly with the shorter poses. And I think
that's so
like,
interesting. I thought your shorter poses looked so good.
yeah, I think I may be skipping the middle phase. Like I do the gesture part and then I tend to want to skip to the final lines
Hmm.
directly, keeping the simple forms part, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
actually, it does make sense. And that's something I actually was going to comment on. Because I think especially in here, this is maybe a good example of where this is happening. I feel like there's some places where like you have some really nice stuff going on. Like this standing pose here, I thought was really nice. Like this long line of the leg here, so good. Like the long line of this gesture, all this stuff is like so nice. But it does maybe feel a little bit like you're finding a few contours. And here, especially, I think we have some pretty specific marks along the contour. In both of these drawings, really, I don't think there's like an indication of where's the rib cage or where's the pelvis, even what is that simple cylinder of the arm doing. So those are some things I think are kind of missing here. And it's maybe especially noticeable here and here on this one too. This one, sorry. I haven't talked about that one yet.
Welcome to New Masters Academy, the best place to get art education online. Receive expert critiques on your projects from world-renowned artists, helping you improve faster than ever. Embark on your creative journey today at NMA.art.
Because we have these like bending poses and there's an indication of like where the rib cage would be on the contour, but then I think because you're not showing it actually like inside of the figure, it starts to almost feel like it's running into the pelvis too much, because then the pelvis is a little bit like, well, where is it? It's not totally clear yet. So that's something that I am noticing. And related to that, something that you could maybe work on a little bit more would be to think right from the beginning. You said something about things being disconnected. So one thing that can help with that right from the beginning, and then this would relate to those simple forms. Okay, here's the head. Where are the shoulders? What's the tilt of the shoulders? What's the tilt of the pelvis? Where are the feet? Right? And just do that like from the beginning. Obviously, that works a little bit easier in a standing pose. A lot of these are not standing poses. So, like here, you might say, okay, where's the head? Where's the tilt of the shoulders? Where's the tilt of the pelvis? And then you might think about, okay, where is the seat? Where is she kind of resting on the ground, something like that. And then that gives you almost like points to connect. So then you have to think about, okay, where's the center line through the figure? How is that moving? How does the line of the elbow sort of connect to the leg down here? It gives you like a big connection that you're thinking about right from the start. And then start to think, okay, there's a rib cage in here someplace. There's a pelvis in here someplace, probably tilting something like that. And then you can start to think, okay, what's the connection there? And then where's the pinch and where's the stretch? And then you can have like a little bit more, like when you do sort of get to the point where you can think about some final marks, some like finishing up lines at the end of your 2 minutes, those things will give you some grounding for that, right? So that when you do go to make like a nice line for the rib cage to show where the rib cage is, or to show a little pinching here, or maybe a start to the arm here, you can connect that to those underlying forms. And then they have a more clear foundation that's informing what exactly that shape should be. Does that kind of make sense? Am I explaining that okay?
Yeah, it does.
Another thing I was noticing is that like nobody has shoulder blades in your drawings. I guess she does. She has one. But
Yeah, I'm not
there's
really
one
comfortable
over
with
here.
them. I
Yeah.
always feel like I'm inventing them because I don't know what
Mm.
shape they actually have, and so I avoid them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say first, like, to not overthink it too much. I mean, it's, without getting too crazy into anatomy, you can still say, plenty about it. And I think you do have a reasonably accurate shape here of this kind of triangular shape. It's maybe a little bit small, but that's a reasonably accurate shape. Something that I find is sort of helpful, especially in a pose like this again, is to try to use the shoulder blades as a point of symmetry on the back. So you might notice, oh, there's a little bit of the shoulder blade here, for example, that I can see. And then that means that there's going to be another bit of it over here, right? And then obviously the spine, the center line of the back is going to go down someplace, in between that. But it's a landmark back there to help locate just more clearly what is the structure of the figure on the back, where you don't have often as many obvious landmarks as you do, with like the navel and the hips and the, shoulders and everything else, right? So use that as a helpful landmark when you're working on the back, so that you have some kind of symmetry that you can indicate there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But I think there's a lot of good stuff happening here. Like this, again, this is so nice. This long line here, so nice. This little kind of gesture of the arms, so nice. There's like a lot of really good stuff happening in those shorter poses. Something I was going to say on these longer poses, and this is, well, all the way up to 5 minutes. Whoa. I think on this page especially, and yeah, on this page too, it feels very like you suddenly stiffened up a lot. Like in your shorter poses, one thing that I thought was so nice about them is that there's all these beautiful long lines that are so fluid. And I think here in these longer poses, you suddenly tighten them up quite a bit. It's like that line stops, that line stops, this line stops, this line stops. And I want to just suggest that you actually let the lines keep flowing like you did on the earlier poses. In other words, try to keep the same mentality of looking for these long flowing lines, and don't just start stopping them too quickly just because you have 5 minutes instead of 2 minutes. Because I think it's actually making these poses feel a lot less dynamic than your shorter poses, and you're sort of losing some of that gesture. Like here's a good example of that, where you're finding all of these smaller shapes, but it starts to turn into a little bit of a snowman, right? Like a snowman like that, right? Instead of that rhythmical thing that you have, in spades over here. It looks, again, really nice. But over here, it starts to turn into a, a snowman. That's what I call a snowman. By the way, I think counterintuitively, often we get better at shorter poses the more longer poses we work on. If you're sort of stuck in the world of doing 2 minutes all the time, or 5 minutes even, that's a good thing to do, by the way. I think doing life drawing every day is like, oh my God, everyone should do this. This is great. It's a good thing to do. But if you're only doing 2 minute or 5 minute poses, I think you can end up spinning your wheels a bit, just kind of repeating the same things over and over without making actually a lot of progress. So sometimes put aside the 2 minute, 5 minute poses and go do a 3 hour drawing, or a 4 hour drawing, or a 10 hour drawing, even. Like do something that's a lot more involved, so that you give yourself the time to make much more careful, much more specific observations. And then actually doing that, when you go back to 2 minute and 5 minute drawings, you'll have a completely new understanding of them. You'll do it a different way. Now, sometimes we have to really slow down in order to do things quickly. On these, I noticed this little thing here. Watch out for finding actually a point of overlap there. This shape here feels a little bit weird. This whole gesture of the arm is a bit odd. So something funky is happening there. I think this is another example where looking for the volume of the rib cage underneath, looking for the shape of the pelvis underneath, all of that would be really helpful for, making some of this a little more volumetric. There's something, I think, in these 5 minute poses specifically, where things started to feel like they got flattened out a bit. So yeah, I think going back to feeling out those simple forms, especially the rib cage, pelvis, and then yeah, even the simple cylinders of the arm, I think would be helpful here as well. Still though, keeping that beautiful gestural feeling that you have. Don't forget to do that in those longer poses too. It's difficult because it's a balance of all these things that you're trying to juggle. That's why it's hard. But I think that's the next thing to work on, is getting a little bit more clarity in those simple underlying three-dimensional forms and really thinking about how they're moving in space. Okay?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Do you have any other last questions?
No, I don't. That was super clear. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your work. Okay.